Spud, it's very unfortunate that when you get sick in a time of pandemic and you don't get the sexy COVID, you just get shitty chest infection. You don't get any sympathy, you don't get any money from the government or whatever it is. You just no, just shit.
You just get like for a couple of days there, I was convinced like, are my testicles hooked up to my nose because there's this horrible ganky liquid coming out that's of a similar colour. Yeah,
you make communion wafers out of it. Did you? So. So we were just speaking off. We were speaking off air just a bit before this, and we would have a annoying chest infection type thing. But I did do a test. And you probably won't see it, but not.
You're pregnant. Tommie's pregnant.
Yeah, Tommie's pregnant. God, it's all we need on many levels.
Did you see? You probably saw the thing on Twitter the other day. It was not Twitter, Reddit the other day. You know, one of these ones that gets like huge upvotes, like
Gene Wilder is a brilliant actor. That's the latest one. Isn't Willy Wonka a great film? Yes, it's amazing. Now, shut up.
Yeah, it's a savage film. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And it was what was it? Something to make her dad really proud, and it was this porn actress being awarded the best anal scene of 2020 or 2020.
I'd say he's very proud.
Runs in the family.
The chest infection, it's quite annoying. It's quite coughy and phlegmy and disgusting, and it's actually in many ways worse than when I had COVID. It doesn't come with the intense tiredness that I had with COVID, though. That's the only
It doesn't come with the Medal of Honor either, the badge of honor of having survived.
No, yeah, you get to shut down for 10 days and all that kind of stuff, and you know. You have to put a black cross on your door or blood or something of a lamb, well, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, as Spud coughs up a lung.
Spud coughs. I'll try and cough as little as I can. I found, and it's this weird thing. I have this really good breathing method that I came across. Okay. This is Ukrainian/Russian doctor around 100 years ago. There's an Irish guy called Paul McKeown, and there's an American writer as well. I can't remember his name. He looks a bit like a skinny Jeff Bridges, and he's been on Rogan and stuff, and he has this podcast about breathing. And it's based on this Russian guy who's called Buteyko or Buteyko, but he's got But in his name anyway, so that's all that matters. And But basically, at its most simplest, it's just constant. It's just trying to always be aware of trying to breathe through your nose instead of your mouth all the time. Because it's hard to do when you're talking, but when you're doing something physical, just try and be conscious of it and do it in your nose. And he has these things where you do these slow breaths in and out, and you pinch your nose and you shake your head left to right or else up and down, and it's supposed to release the crap at the back of your neck and your throat and all that, and help you breathe more easily.
The holotrophic breathing, is it something along those lines? Or
I don't know. What's that? Probably something similar, is it?
Well, it's I can't remember his name. I definitely know his name. He's mentioned in the that famous Grant Morrison lecture. But Dave Lee has a fantastic book on breathwork, if anyone's interested. It's one of the best books I've come across, all about the different kind of bits and how to use it, even as a therapeutic to release. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, even when I was learning massage and aromatherapy at college back in the Stone Age, that it seems at this point, there was an awful lot of things where because we were all practicing on each other and doing lots of things, but it was like you were getting more massage than you probably should have in a sense. But there was lots of stuff being released and lots of memories of things coming back, and people suddenly would get aches and pains, and it would be like, oh, I had this years ago, and and you'd finally be able to release it. But it seemed to have some sort of, when you walk in somewhere and go, oh, and you smell something, and it's like, oh, grandmother's or whatever, something, and it just transports you back. There's some sort of similar. It doesn't seem as powerful because the smell stuff seems to be just the most biggest trigger and that kind of thing. But you can do it, and just someone touch you in a certain way, when you get inside, and it just releases this as if. Trauma is just here on your shoulder, or just waiting. Let me out! Jesus Christ, I've been here since you've been 4. Let me out!
My perverted mind, all I heard there was when someone touches you, it releases. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's equally true. There could be a lot of trauma around that. I'm sure there is. Tony Robbins reckons.
I was going to say we both have Kabbalah fucking wristbands.
I know. I've seen that. Yeah, that's not. That's definitely not. But I mean. we both have them, and there's a conspiracy around it. So I'm totally part of the cabal. I control the world. Yeah, so Tony Robbins.
Did you see Macron? Did you see Macron on this? The French president. He done a TikTok video, and he had he had a normal T-shirt rather than a shirt and a suit or whatever. But the conspiracy nuts are going mad because it was an owl.
And
the big thing with the owl.
A pizza, possibly, was it? You can see one of the head guys of QAnon posted him and his wife having a pizza, an image on Instagram, and then had to close his account because people going, you're part of it. No, let me have pizza with my wife. That's it.
Pizza. It's the world is strange. I wonder, is it getting strange? It can't be getting stranger because the world must all we're led to believe there's always balance. But why does it seem like it's getting weirder?
Because the end of one story and the beginning of a new story. That's why. And the new story has to feel weird, because if it wasn't weird, then we wouldn't get into it.
Wouldn't register. It's a new thing. Okay, I like it. Hunter Thompson had a thing though. He's like, when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. So I like that.
Yeah.
We're professional weirdos by now, Tommie. For sure,
absolutely. Yeah. Do I get a badge? I think I need a badge. Do I get a weirdo passport that I have to show when I'm going into pubs and clubs?
A wizard passport.
Yeah. I was in Bray on Saturday. I was at Sea Life. Yeah. And it's lovely. Bray is absolutely. Have you been to Bray?
Bray's nice.
Yeah. Lovely kind of seafront, but there's a whole other town element to it that you don't even have to go near.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Don't get off the seafront. You're grand. Yeah.
Other towns are available. So it's but there was no. We didn't go through the whole thing. There was no one asked for anything. I didn't even think about it until I was talking to someone last night when they were saying, I had to go into a local place and show my passport. Just didn't even think about it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
the places we went in were outside. Just pick your lung off the floor, will it? Was outside dining, but to get it, I had to go inside to collect it to bring it outside, and there was no one asking for anything. But I just assumed that. Not that I assumed. Afterwards, I was kind of going, probably should have been. Is that not the whole point of them?
It's a weird one here because we were out the weekend. It's the first time in the pub since last October, and no one. You saw the odd person walking in with a mask on, and then they looked around and realised no one else is wearing one, so everyone took it off. But yesterday we went to a mountain. We took the gondola up, the young lads, and we all had to wear the masks while queuing and stuff. But I suppose it's the same as the shop. You're supposed to wear them in the shop. It's a weird one as well, because when I was down in the country, no one's wearing masks at all. But up here, people seem to be taking it a bit more seriously. I don't know.
Yeah, no, we're all definitely very masked here. You see high, even majority of people walking with masks in the street.
Well, it should be, because it's mad over here, because Ireland has 1,500 per day or something like that, close to that. Poland has 100, 110.
Does it?
It's what? Yeah, exactly. Someone's selling porkies there, But
it's so strange. It's I can understand how easily you get into conspiratorial thinking, because literally the things everyone gave out about at the beginning of the COVID is that all deaths were considered COVID. They've changed now because it suits them. So it's you die with COVID and all, and you can go, right, yeah, okay. It's that kind of thing that I was saying on Twitter badly, in that the polarization of you're only allowed to either think everything is correct or none of it's correct. And there's no kind of middle ground where you're allowed to have it. You can see it. Well, I mean, the Rebel Wisdom is a great example of that. You see that latest video got taken down by YouTube. They actually really balanced both sides of the argument video. Yeah.
I presume it wasn't watched though. That's an algorithm just taking it down.
Well, I mean, yeah, and also because the ivermectin, whatever way that's pronounced, was in the title. Yeah. That's just has to be. And the drama, Rebel Wisdom is definitely my favourite popcorn YouTube channel, from Ryan Roll Stove back to, currently at the minute, it seems like, you see Eric Weinstein had to tell Brett Weinstein and David Fuller, is that his name? To
Fuller,
lads, chill out.
Chill out,
yeah, just stop. But
your man Fuller, the man Fuller is interesting. He's very, what's the word? He takes journalism very, very seriously, which I have to because it's what I studied. But at times you're just chill out, man. It's not that important. Like, okay, look, they took down one of your videos. You have hundreds of. Like, why don't you just go back to doing more videos about consciousness? Because
but cool. it's a trend, and it's kind of the whole thing is around. I do understand, and I know what you're saying, but
I understand too. I understand.
It's the other kind of thing that it's about rebel wisdom. Someone said this recently, and I thought that's a really good point. Is that there's just this kind of not necessarily labeled that or put at rebel wisdom, but in general that this kind of thinking that your guests are your friends. And that kind of leads to, well, in a sense, a falling out that is more than professional. And and it's that, I thought you were my friend or something, but you're just a journalist. To go, well, really, yeah. But it's kind of that, you can see there's a bit of buddy going on.
Oh, of course, there definitely is in that channel. Definitely. Yeah. There's a weird thing though in that, like, excuse me, kind of everyone knows this happens, but they forget it quite a lot. And it's that, like, I'll give you an example. Like when I was working with the couple of I didn't work for them properly. I was freelancing for them, and I had done some work experience after leaving college and stuff like that. So I wasn't a full paid staff member, but I was doing freelance stuff.
For who?
One of the Irish papers, right?
Right.
So
the good one or the bad?
I know, sure. If I count them up, 4, and 1 isn't gone now. So let's say 4. 3 of them are still around, right? Okay. But you weren't told what to write. Okay, you weren't. You were given a title, more or less, or given a. No, that's even wrong, because you come up with the title yourself and then the sub-editor would change it. But you were given the idea. Sorry, yeah, that's bad. You were given the idea and you're saying, go off and write that, will you? But then the editor would say, but I want you to do it from this slant, So, like, you mightn't agree with it, but it's like, okay, well, I'm getting paid 200 quid for this, so I need to write it. So, that's the thing. And
if I write this and people like it, I get to write more. But they'll be also under that same rules.
Well, that can happen, but not to like an entry level stuff to what I was doing, But no, that can happen, and then you can get pigeonholed with all that kind of. Say, like, what's that fella Ian something his name, writes for the Irish Indo. He does a lot of that shouty. Someone think of the children stuff, and he's got pigeonholed. He's worked himself into that corner by doing those types. But anyway, people like to read that stuff. It's as simple as that, But there's that thing where. Sometimes, and I think your man, Rebel Wisdom, is like, he should know better than this. Like, he should know that not just because the journalists write something doesn't mean they agree with it. And often it's a really good thought experiment to do a thing where, like, you don't agree with someone or you don't agree with something. So, like, like in college we do debates about, I don't know, for example, abortion, pros and cons, and you find yourself on the con side, and you're like, I think everyone should have it, or not everyone, you know what I mean? Her body, her choice, whatever. But then you find yourself arguing against it, and it makes you think in a new and a different way. It helps you see other points of view. So, like, when you're reading an article on the internet or a newspaper, like, just try and put the pieces together and say, does this person actually believe it, or is this because he can take it to an extreme. It can be a wind up, or else it can be just like what I was saying with the debate. It can be something where you're trying to find where your opinion does actually lie, because you're taking on the other thing. You were talking about this the other day on Discord. It's why you watch people you don't agree with.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, same thing,
Yeah, it's trying to. But, like, it's the Tommie sledgehammer as opposed to the Spud sledgehammer. In that if my kind of thing is, if the big flag for me is if I see a video come up on YouTube and it's by someone and it's about something and I go, I don't want to watch that. I know that's going to annoy me. And go, well, motherfucker, you better watch it then. Because you have to, like, why am I not, not in the kind of sense, I know it's just going to annoy me because it's dumb or whatever, but there's kind of a thread or a sense that there might be something in it that'll challenge what I actually feel. And so, usually doesn't, in fairness, but it's, I don't like the kind of, I'm not going to watch it because I'm scared. But it's all too easy just, but it's like kind of, if you're looking just for optimistic stuff, you're going to find it. If you're looking for the dark stuff, you're definitely finding it at the minute. There's not any amount of it. But it's important, I think, to not be in an echo chamber. But it's also, that doesn't mean that you have to listen to everyone. You know what I mean?
No, but sure,
if your uncle says, it's all aliens and UFOs, go right up.
Yeah. It's only people who are self-inquisitive and inquisitive anyway. Inquisitive and then self-inquisitive, that comes next, I suppose. who do look at these things. Most people are just, they sit down in front of the news while they're eating dinner, take in some of it, they're half listening to it, they're not really paying attention, and it doesn't really matter because they got 5 kids screaming around them or whatever, So,
yeah, but there is the other thing of the people who only read certain newspaper and,
there's
read
that too,
only the RT News or whatever it is, and that's, what Joe Duffy says in the radio is true, that, and there's no other, there is a kind of a...
Yeah, there is that, yeah. For sure.
But it's an interesting one that happened to me recently about just projecting stuff, which was really interesting. I read Peter Gray's new book, which is The Two Antichrists, which is really, really good. You'd love it because there's lots of talk of eating cum in it. Lots of talk. You'll really enjoy it.
Know your audience.
It's actually even a manual or a thing at the end to show you exactly how to do it.
Oh, no.
But Peter Gray of Scarlet Imprint, he wrote... The Red Goddess, Apocryphal Witchcraft, Lucifer, Princeps, all of these good books. And there's new one, Two Antichrists, which is essentially about L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons. And as you know, I'm a big fan of the old Jack Parsons. But the first 2 chapters, I nearly didn't read it because the first 2 chapters, this was so negative and so the world is fucked. There's nothing we can do about it. And I was going, here we go again. The same old boring. Line that all occultists seem to have at the minute. But anyway, then it goes into the book proper. Book proper is brilliant. The main, it's a very short book. It's only about 100 pages. The main kind of thrust of it is that while we look at Crowley as being probably the most successful or biggest magician of the 20th century, the argument can certainly be made that L. Ron Hubbard did so much better than him as a magician. And given where we are right now, with like space and billionaires going to space and rockets and all that, Jack Parsons is equally has done better than Crowley because we don't get to the fucking moon without Jack Parsons, which starts all of this kind of thing. So anyway, my point of the whole thing, you should read it. Yeah, I think you would like it. Come eating aside, but then I finished at the end. He goes, the first 2 chapters seem very incongruent with the rest of the book. The rest of the book is very weak. Let's not just sit around and let this happen, let's not just let the billionaires fuck off and leave us on a dying planet. Let's be wizards. So I went back and read the first 2 chapters and they're not doom at all. It was like, that's very interesting.
It's just the mood you were in, was it?
The mood I was in, or just saying, here's the standard line, here's the thing. And it's definitely the first 2 chapters are, everything's a bit as we know, but, come on, let's do this. Let's not take this.
Interesting.
Very.
That is really interesting. That might be called an insight there, Tommie.
All right.
They get smaller. They get smaller the more of them you get, you see, and you just go, okay.
But it just goes to show you do create. There you go. Absolutely create your reality in the sense of there's written words that you think you can't. That had 2 very different views.
I'm just writing down Martin Luther here. Carl Jung thought he was the Antichrist, didn't he?
Yeah,
or could have been the Antichrist. I thought that was interesting because it came along at the midpoint of that aeon, Christ aeon, and he was the one who turned it all upside down. So I think it's a good theory. I always used to get it. My uncle used to abuse me. Not a bit. Jesus, this sounds awful. My uncle used to always slag me.
There's the title of the.
He always used to slag me off because the school I went to, I don't even remember the name of the order now. They were run by the priests who he's like all that order. All they ever gave the world was Martin Luther, and look what he did. So there's still that chip.
Still hold on to that. What's that? 450 years ago or something.
It's a weird one. It's mad. Go ahead. Sorry. Go on.
The Antichrist thing is interesting in that it's very similar to the Jordan Peterson thing of. You can look at the Nazis or whatever, and don't doubt for a minute that if you were there, you'd do exactly the same thing. That's and even I was listening to a load of Charles Eisenstein. He's amazing. I'm really, really enjoying him at the minute. And he's kind of one of his things is that if you look at something as someone is doing something and you're judging it, you go, I would never do that or whatever. That's only because you're not seeing it from their point of view. And he equally would say, given the life, the circumstances, the choices, all the thing is, if you were that person, you're making the same choice. You're hijacking that plane. Because that's what that life leads you to.
For sure.
But Jack Parsons,
it's very hard. It's very hard.
It's not the same.
It's very hard to put yourself in the shoes of.
For sure, yeah.
those bad people during that second war and say that you could. That's a tough thought
because it's like because Tommie wouldn't do that, but Saddam Hussein's son would do that because he's Saddam Hussein's son, and there's no other kind of. But that's not to say. I mean, like maybe Saddam Hussein's other son that we don't know about is cool, and he didn't get. He said it's like. I don't know.
I mean, there's something. Was it Adam Curtis? Wasn't it that documentary series we watched a while ago? There was something really cool about what the German people did in the 60s and 70s of just kind of the people who were born after the war rising up against their parents and saying, "Here, what the fuck did you do?" And holding them to account and putting people in jail and taking people out of public office and like. That's a cool thing to do. Like, I mean, the Americans had their kind of hippie revolution of the 60s against the man and Vietnam and the Korean War and all that, which is great, obviously, but one that isn't kind of more well known around the world is that, the German young people in their 20s and 30s turned around to their parents and grandparents and was like, fuck yous. What the fuck was that all about? We have to live with this guilt now because of what yous did,
Yeah, it's such a... But I definitely agree with the Jordan Peterson point of that, to say that you would not do that in that circumstance.
Oh, look, I agree too. Yeah. Who was your man at the Nuremberg trials? Which one of the leaders, the big fat guy? He said, like, it's easy. They asked him a question, how did you make all these people follow you? And he's like, it's easy. You just blame the other, and anyone who doesn't want to fight with you, you just could tell them they're not patriotic. And like... Yeah, that's it. That's the formula.
Yeah, how often has that been trotted out recently? Like it's the standard. It's
shocking stuff. Come here, let me change something now because I want to talk to you about a couple of things on that'll come up on Discord, right?
Yeah.
This thing about keeping magic quiet.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's one of the pillars of the keep silent is one of the things. Don't, it's kind of, and I always went, yeah, whatever. But it's one of the things I find about keeping silent is because it's like, say I was saying to you, you're, Spud from 10 years ago, and don't believe a word of any of it. And I would go, I'm manifesting a car, Spud. And you go, do you actually believe that? I go, no, maybe I don't.
It's a great impression there, Tommie.
So it's like, and then you go, and now you start doubting yourself and all of that kind of stuff. That's one. That was kind of my main kind of thing, is what I thought about. But there is also that sense, particularly, you would know this as well, being a creative man, that if you tell people your idea before you've done it or you've got a substantial amount of it, it's as if it's now it's out in the world, it can do its own. It's already, it's gone.
Yeah. Man, how many things and books and ideas for films have I had with you where I've spoken them and nothing's happened? And
I'll tell you, the fun bit is then you find that some other guy has made your film. And like, how often does that happen? Like it's that idea that notion that ideas have people don't have ideas, and it's just waiting around. I choose you, and you go, I'm a bit busy. Bye. I'm over here. I'm coming out somehow.
See, but come here, though, I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think. Yeah. Well, look, I even have a problem calling this stuff magic. I prefer what fucking Vervaeke calls psychotechnology. It just sounds a bit more badass. I like it.
Graphic novels versus comics. The fucking comics. Get on with it. Come on.
Well, yeah. Okay. I give you that. But that's just a chip on my shoulder I have about the world.
No, and I understand. I absolutely understand. Yeah. I understand. But it's magic. Yeah. Just go with it.
Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah. I'll give you that one. It is. But I'm not going to call it that. So. No, but look, I mean, it's. I have this thing, and look, maybe you can tell me kind of where it comes from. But I've always not always, but when I started reading more about the Stoics and all, and their kind of attitude to speaking about yourself and about like boasting or about putting yourself in the middle of conversations and stuff like that. Like I've always identified with what they said about it, because what they say is, don't talk about yourself unless you're asked about yourself. Yeah. Basically that's at its base. And the other thing is that, like, and then don't lie is the other bit of that. Don't lie. Yeah. Yeah. In the sense of, if asked about yourself, don't. I don't really. Yeah. If you've done something, say it. Tell the truth. Yeah. But be wary as well that, like, while each of us love telling our own stories. Most people aren't that interested. Be aware of that, So, but like, I don't know, maybe does that come from like a Catholic guilt thing of like, just, shut up, be quiet, don't cause any...
The sin, isn't it? A sin of pride. Like, I mean, it's
that would be it, yeah.
Yeah. But it's tall poppy. It's all of that kind of stuff of, who do you think you are? Like, who are you to... Yeah, from the Christian or Catholic point of view. But at the same time, like, I do kind of see it. This is for me a big difference between what I understand of Western spirituality and Eastern spirituality or magic, is that in most of my experience of it anyway, which isn't long, let's say it's a year and a half, right? It's not long at all. Pretty good year and a half,
No, but it has been a great year and a half.
Yeah, no, it's like, that the substitution of football, it comes on the last 20 minutes, scores 3 goals, wins the game. It's similar level stuff.
I'm Ollie Gunnar Solskjaer,
yeah.
Except not as good looking. He's a good looking chap, isn't he? He is, like, fair play to him. That's that baby face smile. He still has it. He's like 50 years old and he's still like as cute as a button. Anyway, no, I just kind of see the difference of it being that, for me, and I'd like other opinions on this, Western magic seems to be much more about getting what I want. All right, a little bit more materialistic. Now that can be about like material things like manifesting the new car, or it can be about manifesting, I want the higher state of something. I want communication with this. I want that. Where the Eastern philosophy is a bit more acceptance of the here and now and being, and acceptance of awareness.
Sure, yeah, but also embedded within a caste system, however. So there is that.
Well, yeah, there is that. Yeah. There is that as well. So that's, I mean, when I see, how to bring it back to keeping quiet about magic, I think that there, maybe, no, I don't know, because I'm not on any Eastern spiritual forums or websites or anything like that, but I think when I see people sharing a lot about the magic they're doing, it mightn't be on purpose, but it's a thing of, look at me, look what I'm doing.
Yep,
I am
absolutely
doing, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas the other side,
look at the badass wizard I am. Yeah.
And as well, there's this thing of like what we just said, is that like when you put it out into the world, it seems to not work because you're sharing it. Yeah,
it dissipates immediately. It's as if it manifests, and the manifest is you talking about it rather than the thing happening.
Yeah.
Where this came from for people, in case don't know, is that we did 40 days of sigils, and I posted all my sigils up for 40 days, as that's what I decided I was going to do. Post them online, Instagram and Discord, and 2 possibly came through. And I went, okay. And that's what I've been doing, is putting sigil up, because I mean, obviously there's a couple of sigils I've done that have become quite popular and done well, they're attached to servitors, so it is slightly different, that is a thing. So I said, right, I'm going to do some sigils, and I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm not going to say I'm doing sigils. I'm not going to say I'm trying an experiment. I'm not doing anything. And Jesus, it worked very quickly. And I went, that's interesting. That's, that's something. And I mean, there's so much around that. I mean, because like I didn't tell people what the sigils were for, so it's not just intention. The ones that I posted online. So I don't know what. I think a lot of it is down to because I think it probably would work better me not saying anything. That there seems to be some sort of power. I feel there's some sort of power in keeping silent, because I know there is.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I really do think so too. Like I don't really tell you lads what I'm doing magically. You know what I mean? I'll tell you when something happens. I'll come, hey, get to happen. But I don't say like, this week I'm going to do this to see what happens. Like, because of I know that once I say something, then that's kind of it gone. Yeah, it's done. Then, you know what I mean?
It's very similar. I remember the Baptist head. I think it's in the introduction to one of the books. We're going, why are you telling all this? And it's obviously Alan. Saying, do you think we're telling you everything? Shut up. Yeah, cool. I mean, like 90% of stuff I do of magic, I don't have.
But that's all stuff after the fact.
Yeah.
God, how could I have a problem with that? Because you've done this stuff. But it's just when you're setting out to do something, or you are doing something, it's probably best to stay quiet about it until you're done. Probably, and it seems to be that's the general kind of consensus agreement on you know.
Yeah, even
Discord,
then the goal
anyway,
setting, they're saying that if you're doing a New Year's resolution, the old kind of wisdom was to tell people so that they would hold you accountable for it. And then I go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Don't eat that cake. Remember you said, you weren't. Turns out when you actually study it, that it doesn't work at all.
It's actually, no one cares. They've forgotten. I thought you were giving up smoking. No, I give up cake. Really? But so what? Stop smoking cake then, you fucking weirdo.
Yeah. Well, like, it's one of those things that it seems self-evident, but it isn't. Was it to will, to dare, to be silent, to eat cum? I think that they're the 4 pillars of magic.
It made me laugh so much I coughed up a lung. Come here, I want to come back to surrendering, okay? And I know you said yesterday that you're sick of talking about it on the Discord.
No, I didn't say I'm sick of talking about it. I'm sure other people are sick of talking about it. Me talking about it. But to the point that even I'm sick of talking about it.
Look, I listened back last week, and just to see what points I had made properly and what I hadn't, and then there was a big discussion on the Discord. You should join Tommie's Discord if you haven't already. I'm sure Tommie will put a link in the description if he bothers.
Maybe. I think there is one.
Maybe. We'll see what happens here.
You know, in the YouTube where you automatically have a list of things.
Yeah, one okay, so it's probably there.
Every now and again someone goes, that's out of date. Can you change it? All right, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry about that. And so like I think I made some decent points, but I don't think I was clear because, I just come back from the... You don't need excuses, okay? I don't think I wasn't as clear as I had wanted to be. I was a bit all over the place, all right? So, and I had to think on this to try and get my thoughts on it, because I know I used that example about the father-in-law and letting him kind of take control, right? But like after digging a bit further into like what that actually is.
Okay, yeah.
All right. I've decided upon a final theory in that, okay, so surrendering then for me is giving in to the now and the moment, the power now, Eckhart Tolle, that kind of yada yada, which is all Eastern things anyway, you know what I mean? So it's and we were saying stuff about you were asking about, is this, and Jason had a good answer about this as well, is that not just handing over, there seems to be this common idea that it's handing over control. Jesus take the wheel.
Well, it's not that is what is described in cult literature. It's literally giving the control to the divine. And
then, so that leads then to say, well, then am I just becoming passive in my life and I'm not taking any decisions at all? So I would say then, with this, my idea of surrendering and just living in the now, being in the now, and being present. Yeah. That means no, because you're not being passive at all then, because when you're on a river and you're going down the river and there's a fork, you're in the moment and you have to decide, and you paddle left or you paddle right, using your logic and your decision and all that kind of stuff.
But my point, that's not surrendering though. That's my issue. That's making a decision. I don't know. You see, it is
making a decision, but but because the decision is now in the moment, that's okay, because you're surrendering to having to make that decision, if you get me, all right?
Yeah, but it's not surrendering to the will of the divine. And my problem with all of this is that all of the things you're all talking about are wonderful, they're brilliant, they're all things, but they're not what I'm talking about. That's my issue. I'm talking about, what is it when you surrender to the will of the divine, give over the thing, how does that look practically? And what everyone wants to discuss is other things that are kind of similar, but are more like letting go. And go, no, the actual thing, as described, is you let your higher self, God, Jesus take away all of these things. And it's like, it's immediately kind of, no, well, that's not what I'm talking about.
Then I think that has to be arseways then as well. I'll agree with you. I think that this is arseways. People have it wrong. For me, it's being alive now, right here. That's surrendering, all right? And which means that I'm not paying attention to my biases. I'm not paying attention to my discriminations. I'm not paying attention to my conditionings. I'm not angry with you because of something you said 5 years ago that is triggered in me. I'm here now. Perfect. As pure as can be.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think that's a much better way to do it. My problem was I was doing it the other way because that's what I was told.
Yeah. Of course. But there's also a thing as well that I've done, which probably isn't a part of it. but I've had great luck with it, and it's just that when an opportunity comes for something, instead of because you know this thing, us Irish people have this, like you go over to someone's house. I've arranged to see Tommie, right? And I go over to Tommie's house. I drive for 2 hours to get up and see him, and I get up and, hey Tommie, hi Spud, come on in, you want a cup of tea? Spud says no. Why? Why does he say no? Because every Irish person, when they're asked if they like some hospitality, they always say no. Jesus, no, don't want to put you out.
No, yeah.
Like,
and
dude,
then
you literally drove 2.5 hours.
The other person goes, oh, well, I'm having one, so you may as well have one. I will have one. I will. If you're having one. It's
this bullshit to and fro, this little weird dance that Irish people do about being hospitable to each other. But...
And then, do you want a biscuit? Oh, jeez, no, we're going too far, man.
No, I can't have a biscuit. Well, I have some new Chucky Bickies that I haven't even opened them. Oh, should I have one? Yeah.
Oh, man.
Tommie has an awful thing for having stale Bickies, right? If you ever call over to his house, right? He's awful at it.
White, yeah.
You want to make sure he has new biscuits,
yeah.
Right?
I'm just putting on this robe. Can you step into the circle for this biscuit? Just take it on your knees.
Bring your
on
own.
your fucking knees.
Maybe bring your own biscuits. There's a petrol station not far. They sell them. But it's this thing is that when you're gifted an opportunity, take it. Because I think, for me, that's when the universe is winking at you and saying, yeah, go on, go with this, see what happens. Like, it could be something, like I was thinking of one that happened. I was working away with him during that time, and he was, look, I'm off to the carpenter. Let's go down to, I was, yeah, Grant, yeah, whatever. And he kind of looks around and he noticed that I wasn't really that busy. He said, you want to come? I was like, Grant, so you're only doing things. He said, oh, come on. So I went down, and I'm after becoming friends with your man since then. He has these loads of beehives at the back of the house. We got talking about his bees. He gave me a pot of honey. Nice. Do you know, and like all these little tiny things that don't matter in the universe at all. But because I said yes to it, and not to be a sophist and say that I was rewarded for saying yes, because like, okay, here was a new line of the spaghetti theory thing, and it shot off, and you went with it. And
Charles Eisenstein's his whole idea of the gift. It's the gift. Right. Right. I'll tell you what some of my. You see, here's the problem with all of this is my surrender thing is around. The part of it is around a huge personal issue that I have that I'm not going to talk about.
Sure.
So I'm trying to talk around things, but I can give you an example of something that's a real thing. We talked about it. We're talking about just in regards to, I don't know, money and stuff, and trying to do it. And I was like, the way I kind of looked at something and say, like, putting my album, The Ritualis, out into the world, is that that's a total surrender to the divine, because it's kind of going, I've done my bit now, and it's out in the world, whatever. And if it's deemed to be good by God, then something will happen. But if it's not, then it'll fall to the wayside. And I think, in one sense, go, right, Grant, but another way, that's silly, that's stupid. That's that, because you're kind of... The reason I came to that is because it's the opposite of the shiny thing that we've talked about before, where I turn up, oh, here's my comic, I've done it, university, your bit, make me famous, give me all the money. And, that doesn't happen, obviously, and you get crushed. So you didn't have this kind of an allowance. But I think it's bad in the sense because you kind of, you probably, there's so many stories of like people, had they just done that, would not have ended up. It's like even down to, like, I don't know, Take On Me by A-ha, right? The first time they released it, no one cared. Didn't give a shit. Yeah. And they could have went, oh, well, God doesn't want me to have this. Let's go off and become carpenters. They released it 3 times. And on the 3rd time, there's a great video. And, then they become the biggest band in a week of that thing. And I think there's like, so they're surrendering to the divine in the proper sense, not in all the things we've been talking about. The actual giving your control, your agency, your power over to the world. I would suggest isn't always a great idea. And I was doing that, or I'm still in the process of doing that, or trying to get out of it and stuff like that. It's like going, if what I'm doing is right with regards with Adventures in Woo Woo and the podcast and 47s and all that, then the financial side of things will be given to me. And to a certain extent, that's true. But it also say this month it was a bit strange. And then I go, oh, is God unhappy with me? Have I done something wrong? Or is it just market forces as, end of lockdowns, pandemics, and, and I mean, yesterday or the last week, things changed slightly around all that kind of stuff. It's just, I understand when talking to people about surrender, what I've discovered is that people start obviously seeing how ridiculous or bad or fruitless actual surrendering to the divine was, and then sort of augmented or changed it to some form of letting go, being in the now, and wonderful things, brilliant things, and they're much more helpful and much more thing. But it's just, my point was, that's not what it's actually telling you to do. So am I making sense in that?
I don't know. I mean, okay, well, I mean, I think that's what it's telling me to do, and it's surrender, because all you have is, me and you are big fans of Spira now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rupert, Spira, however.
I assume it's Spira. I think it is Spira. It's Spira. Yeah.
Spira. Can't be his real name. Maybe he was like a spy in the IRA or something. Spira.
Yeah, spy in the Ra.
Maybe. But then he'd never get that famous if he was a spy in the Ra, unless he knew something.
I think he was saying that his mum was like big into it, so she used to do stuff, so he's been embedded
in the IRA.
The IRA.
His mother was in the IRA.
Into non-duality. Can you imagine? Yeah, full member of the Republic.
He's a ceramics guy, isn't he? Potter, isn't he? That's what he was, anyway.
He's an artist.
Yeah. Look, I've really identified with his stuff as well, because he says things in a very clear way, which is, but okay, he's about the direct method, whereas I think me and you aren't. We're about the progressive, getting up the steps and becoming good people that way, right? Yeah. Whereas his thing is about like a bit like that Benito Massaro guy.
Yeah,
it's there. It's available for everyone. If you just train yourself to be in the now, then you can get there, and the chips will fall where they may. Then it's up to you if you want to be a good person or not. Whereas Spira it actually goes, when you get there, totally, you'll become more loving and you'll give more love. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, let's just get aside from that for a second. I think that where him and me would, or where I would agree with him, I should say, is that this.
Yes, where Spira agrees with me.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, you fucking egoist, huh?
He rang me up and he said, "Spud, I agree with you."
Spud, you saying I was in the Ra? Your mom was in the Ra. Fucking idiot. What are you on about? Getting done for libel because we said some English spiritualist was in the IRA. I think this whole surrendering to the now, to the higher self, to the HCA, to God, to whoever it is, they are just consciousness. They are the awareness of now, and that's really all we have. So in surrendering to that, you're giving up yourself, your ego, your biases, your whatever. You're giving that up, even temporarily. That's the surrender to just this ongoing evolution of the Big Bang and consciousness and all that is.
Well, it's letting go of the clinging, isn't it? In the Four Noble Truths, it's that, or it's the Stuart Wilde of the way things are, or the way things are. That's it.
Sure. Like it's also the complete and utter acceptance of the dukkha, of suffering. Life is unsatisfactoriness. It sounds better, I think. That's the way life is.
Take it in my example of releasing the album to the world and saying that, if it's to be. If something is to happen,
okay. You know what? Because I've written some down here while you were talking. Cool. I don't think that's for me. I think that's rather looking for some kind of a positive judgment, or looking for some kind of an acceptance, or looking for. See, here I am. It's a searching for. Whereas the surrendering, I might argue, was you making the music and giving into the moment and making each music. What happens after the music, that's got nothing to do with you.
That's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel about it. Yeah. But I feel that's probably not a good thing. In my aha method of describing it, in that. So wait, no. So
you want to have more control over what happens after it's out, or what do you mean?
Well, let me see. It's like. Is it the right thing to do to just hand over all of this stuff or is it probably better to? You see, it depends on your goal, because the goal, I don't want to be famous and I don't want to sell a million things. You know,
well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, look, I mean,
I don't really know. Like,
yeah, look, if you want, man, there's nothing stopping you. You can, for want of a better word, you can whore yourself out on marketing things and go on a ton of podcasts and do a ton of interviews. And if you don't want to do that, then why would you force yourself to do it? You know, and if you're happy with the music,
well, what would happen then if I released it and then I started getting offers to do all that? The surrendering thing would be okay.
Then for me, the way that I do it, then I would take up those offers,
even though it's something you don't want. Because I would have done that, and I ended up hating my life because I was doing loads of stuff I didn't want, because I thought that's what I was meant to be doing.
Okay, but doing an interview talking about the music that you've made and promoting it's a bit different than...
Yeah, but it's saying yes to loads of things that I didn't want to do because I thought you should always say yes to things. Where things are going.
Well, I mean, then I suppose the answer then would be that you have to take each request.
And I'm not saying doing an interview and a podcast is made my life shit. But I'm saying, if you say yes to all of these things that you don't want to do, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
No, but it's that like. So when a decision comes along and you have to make it, rather than looking at it, try and look at it as best you can without your biases and conditionings and all that, and just see right now in this moment, is this good or bad? And it's the same with the reality transurfing. I know you're a bigger fan of it than I am. Like this thing with the alternatives flow. Yeah. Whereas that, like the path of least resistance is pretty much where you want to be going to. So say for example you have trouble in work, your boss is a bully, he puts you down all the time, he's a pain in the arse, he makes you work overtime, doesn't pay you for it. Now, so what's your choices? Choices are work hard and try and get him off your back, or it's to gang together with some other people in the office and try and make things better, or like just leave.
Yeah, but see, here's my problem. And what I'm explaining is I know it's wrong, but this is where I went, in that I would say, well, I'm meant to be in a shitty situation because that's something for me to learn, or that's something, or it's like, and someone goes, will you do this thing? And I go, I really don't want to do it, but maybe, is this getting me out of my conditioning? Is this the way, that... Sure. And I would have done it, and then I'm sitting in another place going, well, this is worse. And that, so... in surrendering that kind of my decision making and stuff over to something else, it didn't work for me. Or, and people say, you don't know how it landed up. It's like, I'm talking about 20 years of this shite. Yeah, but, in some form or whatever.
But do you see then the difference of what I'm saying?
I do, but I still...
what you were doing, like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But what I was doing was surrendering. That's what I'm saying. But so what I need to do is just not do that anymore. And not try to find out what other people think surrender is, because it's because I know what surrender
fucking is. Confusing.
Yeah. So I mean, like, what you're doing, what you're suggesting, what you're doing is much better. It's much better. But my point was, that's not surrendering. And
sure.
That's literally it. And I was doing the actual surrendering, and it wasn't working out for me. So what I wanted to do was talk about someone who had done that and it worked out for them, because maybe there's just some small thing that I was doing wrong or something like that. And what I ended up was talking about definitions of surrender, and none of which were surrender.
Yeah. No, I get you. No, it was it was an interesting couple of days there on the thing, because you could see that everyone has an idea of it, but it doesn't seem anyone... no one's nailed it.
No.
Because even like I'd say, I agree with that, but, or I agree with that, but, or yeah, that's right, and or else someone else would write.
Until this example where it doesn't work. Yeah.
Or else someone else would write something and just like, where's the tumbleweed gift? Because what the hell? That's not magic. I don't know what the fuck you're doing, mate.
And then Spud arrives and just shuts down the conversation. Like, why don't you just all have a wank, lads? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah. No, because it's a thing that I was awful guilty of this for an awful long time. You just get stuck on fucking words, and it's like, no, like the words are so restrictive.
But the frustrating thing is, it's like, and I understand, it's the Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson first hour of that podcast. It's going, we can't talk about surrender until we both know that we're talking about the same thing. I felt we weren't. So,
it's
tedious and tedious, and
no, but it's not. But it's no, but it's kind of. It was the modern way of doing dialectic thing, isn't it? Is that you're right? This is the idea. How do we get there? You know,
Yeah.
I know. I refuse to believe that doing it via text on a forum is the best way of doing.
It's 100% the worst way of doing it. But it's what
that's
we
the
have
modern world. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. That's
well, we
the way
we actually
people
have voice
chosen.
channels in Discord.
Of course we have.
Because we're all. I assume. Oh God, I don't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah, I'm in work. I can't talk to these weirdos.
Imagine. Someone, yes. So. Surrendering and eating to come is how what? Excuse me, Paddy Murphy. What are you doing?
I had loads of other things I wanted to talk to you about, but we'll keep it for next week. All right.
All right.
All right. We'll do this film.
Yeah, I had a page full of stuff as well, but I think we covered most of it. It's funny, like anytime. Some weeks I just don't prepare for a podcast. It's probably very another week.
Do you know what it is? It's from listening to Duncan's podcast. You're like going, he is so fucking prepared. Like I have to up my game. Like I know, really have to up my game. Like,
but he's like the last.
Everyone, please go and listen to Occult Experiments in the Home, because it is by far the best woo magic podcast you'll ever come across. It's just
other than
this world.
Tommie and
so
Spud
good.
talk about, of course, that goes with it. It's the second best.
It's way better. It's better than us.
Way better. Way better. Yeah, you actually puts time in after it rather than just last an hour and a half. So just one other thing before we get into this, because that'll bring us into it, is the Lon Milo de Ket Holy Guardian Angel lecture that we both watched last night. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Really good, yeah. Kind of lost me a little bit the last 10 or 15 minutes. But
it was more personal stuff at that point. He's just talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is fair enough. You're not going to. It's not going to resonate with you as well as.
Oh, he even says that. He's like, I'm going to do this, and I might. Okay, fine.
The Kabbalah stuff and placing the HGA, and then the hexagram and the heart chakra stuff, and you're going, I mean. I'm sure I've read that before, but it feels like that's new information or something.
No, I didn't. The thing with the pentagram and the hexagram thing, I was like, ha. That's worthy looking into. You know? That's very interesting. Yeah, it was good.
Anyone want to do it? It's on his website. He's doing a load of them. They're all pre-recorded, and you get them. You know, you send him a PayPal me whatever, and he sends you a couple of hours later whenever he wakes up. But Lon Milo's great, and you say like he's one of these people that like you can kind of easily discount because you just go, it's just, it's good old Lon, he's just the the singer songwriter happy, and then you read some of his book, go, Jesus Christ, this man knows what he's talking about. You know what I mean? It's like he's really good. But
sure, it's definitely worth checking out. It's really good because. There's loads of stuff there that I didn't know at all. Like I just go, okay, that's for sure. Yeah, good stuff. If anyone's into trying to get their KNC, it's definitely worth it.
The interesting one, of course, he mentions Yogananda, which is the documentary we're going to talk about. Which is that
was funny, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was interesting. Well, he talks about his lineage. He actually goes back to Babaji, which isn't mentioned in this documentary. As far as I see, it only goes back to the two previous gurus. Yukteswar and the other guy. So, excuse me while I die. And this is
as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If we were Duncan Barford, we'd edit that out, but we're not. So it's in. It's the experience. This is the Tasta experience.
Yeah. Real, man. Real.
Yeah. It's a 2014 documentary about a guy called Yogananda, who was pretty much the first kind of Indian mystic who came over to America and had any kind of big impact. He's not the very first is Swami Vivekananda, but as mentioned, while he obviously had a big influence, he was only actually in America for 2 weeks, which is interesting. I have a very kind of personal attachment to Yogananda in that I came across the book Autobiography of Yogi when I was quite young. It's kind of that thing I've talked about before, the Alan Watts book that I read, Way of Zen, and I kind of had a small E enlightenment or small A awakening, whatever, the 3-layer thing. It was very shortly after that the book arrived in my life, Autobiography of Yogi. And I just remember spending an awful lot of time kind of in my room as my parents were separating and life was falling apart, and I was meant to be studying for my Leaving Cert, and I just didn't care about anything.
But that's the best year to divorce, by the way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not as if I need stability or anything. Anyway. But anyway. So I have a kind of, and I was reading it, it's kind of, before that I was reading kind of Hare Krishna stuff as well, which is similar, but not. In Hare Krishna is very kind of Catholic Hinduism in a sense. It's very strict. Where this is more expansive. And he's talking about the goddess, and there's an awful lot of love. There's a love that comes off Yogananda that, you know, you see other kind of yogis or something like that, and there's a humour possibly, or there's a laugh, and there's that you know, that really guy that we both liked from that yoga documentary. He's just laughing and he's very playful, whatever.
Oh, the bum, what was his name? Baba Bum, Baba the Brazilian guy.
So yeah, there's that, and you can see some gurus or whatever that, and they're very intense, and but there's definitely seems some sort of, I don't know, bliss love thing that comes off. Like there's no harm in this man at all.
In this documentary, anyway.
Do a quick Google. That's all But from there, and I'll tell you, his eyes are intense. Or like like all of they really do a great job of restoring the footage that they have of Yogananda. I know that add in.
Oh no, sorry. You're going to have to edit that out. What time are we at? Well, 56 minutes. Oh God, sorry. I tried to do it as quietly as I could.
Yeah, my name's not Tommie Barford. But they do a really good job of restoring the stuff, because if you go onto YouTube, you can see the same footage and it's terrible. It looks like it's from the 20s or the 30s or whatever, but kind of move it around. But like he definitely knew how to play it to the camera, where you turn around and he's just staring into your fucking soul. You previously hadn't heard of him, had you?
No, I didn't know who he was. It's one of these videos that when the boss woman started getting into yoga, she'd asked me if I had it, and I knew it was in the folder we have. Yeah. But she watched it herself anyway, and I put it on last night. She was, "No, I've seen this. Is it good? I don't remember." Okay, fine. Anyway, no, the love thing. To go just to mention Spyro again. He thinks that there's three paths to awakening. One is through peace, one is through love, and one is through beauty. I think we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Maybe
do
next
come back
week.
to that.
No, his thing is love for sure, and acceptance and loving everyone, and as yourself kind of thing. You know, love yourself first, and then everyone.
And also had to do something
beings.
that he didn't want to do, because that's what he thought to surrender. You know, because the divine had asked him, well, through his guru, in that he was very happy life. He had a great kind of spiritual outlook. He had to surround himself with a great community. He felt he was doing great work, and the divine said, "Off to America, man." And he said, "I don't want to go to America."
In the wrong place. I don't know America. I don't go that far. Yeah.
And
it would have been mad, wouldn't it? Because you imagine in the turn of the century, or 1910s, 1920s, this Indian guru, where people are just like all wasps, basically.
Yeah.
They didn't even like Irish people back then. You know,
that's it. That's the documentary. They're only getting used to the Jews.
Yeah. No mention of the paddies.
Darker people are coming in. What's going on?
Yeah, strange. It would have been really strange times, but I mean, according to this, his message took off. Like,
yeah. But he did a very clever thing in that he immediately took Jesus on board. And that was, that if you're going to go into a WASP country, that's probably a good idea. And it's not as if he changed any of his opinions or his views or anything around it. It's just like, well,
but like, why wouldn't he? I mean, Jesus is sound. If you follow his teachings and just
not as a child, as Spud has become obsessed with recently. Jesus as a child is a dick.
Jesus as a child. Everyone, please, unless you're driving, take a minute or two to look up the infancy. Gospel of Thomas. It's it's a book about Jesus being a child and just a murderer.
Serial killer,
A serial killer. He killed so many children, and
tell the story about the best one about killing them, bringing them back. That's the.
So as kids do, they're off playing on rocks. These young lads, and next thing, fucking Jacob falls 1,000,000 feet to his death, and there's rotten carcasses on the thing, and all the kids are we better get out of here. No, Jacob, when we get back to the village, and they tell all the parents. However, Jesus is like, nah, man, these rocks are shit cool. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still playing. These rocks are awesome. Don't have much toys in the desert, so we just play rocks. So he's just hanging out with the rocks. Rocks are cool, you know. Ask any 5-year-old, 6-year-old. They love rocks, throwing them, especially. And so all the village elders come up and they're like, Jesus, not again. I mean, that's actually where the phrase comes from. And he said,
Jesus Christ.
They're like, hey, what happened to Jacob down there? He fell. Did you kill him? Because we know you have a history of killing children. He said, no, I didn't do it. I'll prove it. So he looks down at Kuba and does the Superman eyes and lifts up Kuba, or Jacob. That's Kuba in Polish, and that's what I'm saying. And he raises him up and he's flying there in the air and he's like, "Did I kill you?" And Jacob's like, "No." Grant, see, I told you. And then he just drops him back down with a bang. And he's dead again. Brought him back to life and then killed him again. And there's loads of these other ones as well. Like what I found mad, and I put it up on the Discord, was there's a very, very old Irish Christian book which has poems about young Jesus in old Irish, like. So the fellow I had found had translated them into English, and they're good fun to read. But it's like, isn't it mad to think that this Gnostic infancy gospel found someone and made its way to Ireland, and then your man in Ireland made poems about the story? I think that's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
But there's so many fascinating things about this infancy Gnostic gospel, and that if you buy any of these Gnostic Bibles and Nag Hammadi and stuff like that books, it's not in it.
No.
It's this other thing that's been around for like longer, but it's just ignored for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Absolutely obvious reasons.
It's just nuts. Go look it up. The infancy Gnostic Gospel of Thomas. It's great fun, and you're just like, yeah. I know why it didn't make it into the final cut of the Bible. How could you have the Savior of the world going around killing children?
When they do the Zack Snyder director's cut of Passion of Christ at the end.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, but other than this the Gnostic Gospels are mad. We should talk about them sometime. Anyway,
Yogananda.
Yeah, but Yogananda accepted Jesus in his thing and spoke about Jesus a lot in his thing. But I think at the kind of base of his teachings is just the old perennialism of of all the other ones, basically.
Yeah, well, there's a few different kind of, I suppose, he definitely has the Kundalini thing, though he doesn't call it Kundalini. It's, it's the rising of the centers and the lowering, the energy kind of thing. The Kira yoga, and it's like, it's hard to get a good definition of what it is. It's one of those things that seems to be slightly different than other things, but there's definitely an energy thing. There's definitely a prayer element, and there's a surrender to the divine, so it definitely suit me. Stay away, or I should stay away from it. One of the things that I really enjoyed about it was the process that he talked about at the beginning of his meditation thing, where he would sit down and he would, relax into the wonders of the whatever it was and say, reveal yourself. I went, yeah. Rocking.
That's a good one.
I like that one. Yeah, definitely doing that.
Yeah. But you have to concentrate between your eyebrows as well.
Yeah, that's the Hare Krishnas have that as well. Some people say that, it's not through the eyebrows. They have that, you have to the point of the nose. So you have to look like that. And that's because there's a bit in I think it's the Bhagavad Gita, and perhaps Abraxas can be able to tell me because he's currently studying that, where there's a way of translating a particular paragraph, whatever it is. It's not paragraph, the
verse.
Thank you for that word that my brain forgot. That can be translated either as the place between your eyes or the tip of your nose or something like that. And so that, depending on what way you want to look at it. But I don't know, I would go insane if I had to sit there looking at like it hurts my eyes, But, so you get Yogananda would say the center of the soul is here. Which, I mean, sometimes it definitely does feel that way, but other times it definitely feels like it's in your heart. I mean, and I think wasn't it the Greeks who felt the center of the mind was in the heart. Definitely was, they also didn't know that the sky was blue, which is very strange.
That's mad, yeah. The sea wasn't blue, it was purple and stuff. It's weird. green. It's very weird.
Yeah. Matrix.
He had another.
None of it's real.
There's a really good line. He said that we are. What did he say? We are light and shadow of the Lord, and the aim is get to the beam. I was like, yes, I like this guy. So, I thought that was really nice. Yeah, just nothing bad you can say about this fella. He seems really lovely.
Well, apart from sex scandals, obviously, that if you Google, you'll find. But I don't like. It's like one kind of place where they're saying, but it's like he probably had sexual encounters with people. Okay, is that a scandal?
How dare he? How dare a man have sex?
Yeah, and I think it's probably he definitely embodies. Like there's a femininity to him and masculinity to him. There's like a hermaphrodite type. That's not the right word because that's the physical thing of it. Whatever the thing. So I mean, maybe he was gay and that upset people. I don't know. I kind of didn't really look into it because I don't. Whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Well, it's not children. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like really, like if it is, then that's a different story. But it's just the gentleness, the kind of. The whole story with his best friend is terribly sad though. Like that's money that just ruined an entire relationship. Where they'd been friends for 20 years, and then he wanted to just get married and fall in love and all that. And it's like so he had to leave the priesthood or the monkhood or whatever. And obviously there was a bit of a falling out. But then he goes, well, I want half my money from all the work we just did over the last 20 years. And he goes, well, fair enough. What do you do with that? But then it's kind of he had to start again from scratch, and which he did, and had the set it all back up again. But with learning your lessons and moving along. The very first kind of teachings he did was mail order things. I actually have them if people want them.
No way, yeah.
And that was a big thing. Like it was kind of it's presented in the documentary as his idea, but it's not. That comes from the New Thought. What's your name? William Acre or William Wallace, whatever that. I never remember his name.
Neville Goddard and Joseph Murphy, those lads.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but there's one in particular who he also made up. William Wallace Atkinson, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong or whatever. But he had a number of different names that he would do these different courses from, and he was the first one to really do the mail order kind of stuff. And also Paul Foster Case not long after that, like when he split from the Golden Dawn because magic is bad, man. His like BOTA is still to this day is all mail order. The Rosicrucian stuff is all mail order stuff. You get the monographs in the post and stuff like that. So there's a good heritage in that's still kind of carried over to this day. In that you can't get the BOTA lessons emailed to you officially. Like I mean, they're on the torrents. So you can literally download them. But if you want the thing, so it's kind of that like. While it seems a bit quaint to us now, I suppose that's again another thing of him coming from, ostensibly, like say, a third world country, that India, to the modern world, and really seeing it for what it was and going, right, Jesus, this is going to work. Oh, we have this mail order thing. That he was clued in that certainly had some sort of business business sense to what he was doing, without in a kind of a. I don't think, not in a malicious way. He wasn't trying to do people or whatever. It's just like, Yeah.
It doesn't seem like he was, hungry for profit. He just wanted to get the.
Although when he seen the big mansion, he went, "Yeah, this is the mansion." We'll have this.
If you make a profit along the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Of course. There's a couple other things he said as well. Will is what changes thought into energy. I like that too.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
There's very little bad you can say, but the doc is not wonderful.
No, it's a puff piece. It's obviously made by people, but it's nowhere near the level of the Addy Dad documentary. Like, I mean, that was just propaganda. That wasn't. This isn't. There's another documentary came out last year. It's only about 40 minutes, but I can't source it on Yogananda. Not made by. His and a lot of the interviews, like the George Harrison interview, is taken from the Realization Fellowship movies. From the actual, because obviously that's from the 80s. Like I mean, George wasn't alive in 2014 to do thing. I love George Harrison. But it's like he's so like he was saying, oh, I just keep this book around the house, man, and if people come in and they need re-grooving, I just give it to them. Oh, yeah, you
what
do.
a great line, isn't it? It's brilliant. Yeah. But come here, didn't you know more about this? Did the Beatles, would the Beatles have found him through, because they went off and did their retreat with the Maharishi, didn't they?
Maharishi, yeah.
Is that the first thing, or did they know about him from like this type of other stuff?
Well, no, the reason I suppose that it was in the air, like when it was coming about and it was thing, but definitely the kind of the first kind of excursion is it's actually I think that the ghost. They go somewhere in England to the Maharishi first, and then they go to India. So it's obvious stuff that was in the air. There's a great kind of not a great thing. There's an interesting thing of John Lennon at an interview that you don't see too often after they come back from meeting the Maharishi and goes, "Oh, we made a mistake about him." It doesn't get touted out, but it's in the anthology. Yeah, but George was on a kind of a different level than when it came. Not to say that like John definitely had spiritual, wants and needs and all that, but he definitely ended up, I think, atheistic rather than any kind of, in a kind of humanist kind of way. Like there's something, but it's not. He'd very. Paul McCartney just seems to have been along for the ride, having that thing. Ringo left after 2 weeks of India because he didn't want to eat beans. He just, no, I'm away. Good luck to you. And then George gets into the Hare Krishna stuff big time. But you kind of feel that was his main drive. But then you obviously he was a huge fan of Maharishi. And he says it was the one of the things that really awoken him. He had. Have you seen that Scorsese documentary with George Harrison?
No.
It's 2 parts. It's on Netflix and it's like 4 hours, but it was originally 2 parts. One which is the early years of the Beatles, and then him.
I didn't know there was one. I'll have a look
fantastic.
at that.
Yeah. It's particularly the second half, which is mostly kind of it's his solo years and his spiritual journey, and then talking like how his death is described is intense in it, and there's great lines where he's talking about why he does incense, why he constantly offers incense. So you light the incense, you offer it to spirit, and then it goes around your room and it perforates the walls, and then eventually when you do it so much that your whole room then becomes infused with spirit. That's brilliant. That's really well explained.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's all of these kind of. He's meditative, he's a total cokehead, at the same time. So, I mean, he's embodiment, the really cool guy who also, really liked women and, really liked the party and all this. It's like, but he had the things going, yeah, one life, man, I'm out of here. I'm not coming back to this. I mean, you're George Harrison of the Beatles and you're going, I'm not coming back here,
Yeah, that's a bit mad, isn't it? You'd be like, I want more of this, Well, then again, maybe not. I don't know.
To answer your question, I don't know the exact timelines, but I just assume all of these things were kind of permeating the culture and they were just on the kind of forefront of that. But I doubt you probably would have had, definitely, like that Eastern into Western stuff was happening, but I think they definitely propelled it or brought it forward probably a bit quicker than it would have been. Possibly. I mean, like it depends on what. Like some people say the Beatles made no impact on culture. I mean, that seems ludicrous to me.
Oh, I mean,
there's probably.
Who said fucking Mick Jagger says that?
I don't know. Mick Jagger, sure he doesn't. Like I mean.
No, of course not. Jesus, no.
Yeah, but I mean, they made it, but because it's also I'm biased because they made such a huge impact on me. Both spiritually and musically. So it's sometimes when you talk to someone and you go about the Beatles, you just assume that everyone knows every Beatles song, or and you go, oh no, I don't know. I only I know maybe.
Yeah, it's a bit mad when it happens.
And you go, what? I thought, and like our mutual friend Abin can't stand the Beatles, so like, but he's wrong.
I know he's wrong. Yeah. No, I loved them growing up. I don't like them as much anymore. I think I'd be more of a Stones fans now. If I had to pick between one or the other, I think I'd go with the Stones now, just because they're a bit more rocky and more dancey, whereas the Beatles do weird stuff like Maxwell's Hammer and Hey Bungalow Bill, what did you kill? Like, what the fuck's that all about? Like, just stop.
Drugs.
Stop. Do
Drugs,
the next
man.
song.
Drugs.
Yeah, drugs. I suppose. Yeah. Maybe that's why, because I'm not doing any drugs anymore.
Yeah, but then you have I am the Eggman. Like, I am here, you are here, we are here, and we are all together, which is essentially non-duality. There you go.
Of course. Yeah. No, look, I mean, it's weird when you do meet people and like, they don't like, because they done everything, so and they done it really, really well. So how could you not like them? And often they were the first to kind of do it as well. And maybe they're the first. They're a bit like Apple. They just kind of steal the ideas and make them better.
Well, as you say, their actual company was called Apple, so they were the first to even use Apple.
There you go. There you go. There's a. You can call it a sync if you want.
You watch any of the Rick Rubin, Paul McCartney stuff?
No, not yet. No. I'll get a chance, so I will.
It's good. It's a bit. I don't know. It's a bit awkward, but it's good.
I really like Rick Rubin. Paul's as weird as a box of frogs, though. So he's a weird guy. Well, that's true as well. So you're not the real Paul. You're
I know, sure, he
Paul.
died. I really died.
That's a bit. Imagine carrying that fucking shadow around with you. That albatross. Knowing you're not the real Paul.
Yeah. He would have been 28 if he lived. Come on, the clues are there, man.
Yeah, it's all there, man.
I wonder what he actually thinks of that. I'd say. Sure, he doesn't care.
Wonder.
Yeah. Anyway, Yogananda. we used this. We are the worst fucking.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. But you don't want to give away too much of it. There's the American surveillance thing. I thought that was interesting because he was bigging up Gandhi at the time. Yeah. Like, why wouldn't you? Gandhi's pretty amazing, except for the
bits that aren't.
Sharing the bed with the. Yeah, that's fucked up.
Not letting his wife have medication and dying and then taking the medication when he had the same thing. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
Did you ever hear the thing about Mother Teresa? There's stuff about Mother Teresa.
Christopher Hitchens' book, which is essentially called Mother Teresa's.
That's where it comes from, then. Yeah. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, the old Christopher Hitchens. But look into it, like some nasty stuff, if it's true. Letting people die because that is the will of God, and suffering is good, and, withholding help, and letting people have essentially starve and die and all that.
But also performing miracles as well, though, which is
strange,
mental, very strange. There was a good bit at the end where he meets this kind of guy who's a new recruit kind of thing, and so Yogananda asks him, "Do you?" The guy asks Yogananda a question. He's like, "Look, I'm so used. I was brought up in a religious environment, and I'm so used to people saying, 'Thou canst do X, Y, and Z.'" And he says, "So, what can I do with you?" And Yogananda looks at him and says, "Do you smoke?" He says, "Yeah, I smoke." "Yeah, you can continue smoking." "Okay." "Do you drink?" "Yeah, I drink." "Okay, you can continue drinking." Do you like the fornication with the ladies?" And he uses the word fornication as well. And he says, yeah. And Yogananda says, "Okay, you can continue doing that. So I can keep doing all these things and like still, be spiritually cool or sound or whatever," he puts it. And he's like, yeah. "But I didn't say that the desire to do all those things won't fall away." Like, very good. That's smart, isn't it? Yeah, really because you see straight away that those things, they're sins of the flesh kind of thing. You don't need to do them to be happy. So, through me, I'll help you. Yeah. Become, but also not making them taboo,
not making them, the opposite of,
Exactly, yeah. There was a weird thing happened, actually, just I was watching the end of this, because I was thinking, now I spoke about this to you before and other people, and that, like, that's kind of, there's two sides of the coin to it. By doing all this psychotechnology, Tommie, magic, alchemy, yourself, it can be a lonely path, because you're doing it yourself. And okay, it's great that we have the internet, and like I can turn on Discord and I can ask, a bunch of lads on the far side of the Atlantic or on the far side of Europe. And I appreciate all the help I get from all of you. From the bottom of my heart, you're fucking awesome. But like, there's no actual kind of guru you can, you're part of his kind of teaching or lineage, you know what I mean? Like there's no church I can go to and like on Sunday school after a service say, "Yeah, look, this week I have this thing." And I was just thinking, like, gee, it'd be great to have a kind of guru like that. And at that precise fucking moment, Tommie, the guy on screen Right? The guy on the screen says, "Your guru is looking out of the eyes right now." Fuck!
Yeah.
Fuck!
The thing you're seeking is the thing that's looking at the world.
He says, your guru is looking out of your eyes right now. And I'm like, what? Fuck! Jesus Christ! Don't do that to me, will you? I'm watching a film here.
Yeah. He's going, my guru's a bit shite. He needs glasses. Come on, can I have a better one?
So I was literally kind of half sprawled on the couch, and I just put my hands out and went, "Come on!" What? I don't know if Aga heard me. Maybe she was going to bed at the time, but I don't know. But then again, she probably every now and again hears these things from upstairs. Me shouting at the telly. What the fuck?
Just Spud.
You married a dingbat, but crazy in the head's crazy in the bed. I'll die on that hill.
That was the thing I said recently. I think it was on Twitter. It says, all I want is the love from a healthy relationship and the sex from a bad relationship. Yeah, no, I understand that.
That's a good one. Yeah. Oh, what's the film called again? The Life and something.
Awake, the Life of Yogananda. Actual, if people are interested in the reading the book, which you should. Autobiography of Yogi. It's very woo, and there's even like things where he
more woo, yeah.
It's very like he talks about from when he's young, and he's very underweight, and he didn't, he was going to die, and he prayed to the goddess, and the next day he was 2 stone heavier, and no one knew what. And I was going, great. Can I do the other way, please? Goddess, yeah, 2 stone lighter, please. Didn't work for me. I'm not on the same wavelength. But Ben Kingsley does the audiobook. It's really, really good. If there's there's a couple of different versions, because it came out of copyright, and so there's you can get a different. So if you go on to and look for Autobiography of a Yogi on say Amazon, there's about 20 different versions of it. But the Audible one is Ben Kingsley.
So you probably won't need to find the one, because what's the name of his association in America? The Fellowship? What's it called?
Fellowship of Realization, or Realization Fellowship, or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, so you probably want the one printed by them, maybe, Yeah,
there's it's 1946, there's an original version of it, and then there's an updated version of it. The one the very standard one is kind of a grey covered one. I don't have it anymore. I assume I give it to someone, and it's one of those books I wish I had. And now I don't want to buy it again, because it's not actually the book I want. It's that era of my life.
Yeah.
But interesting. And he's kind of a.
Come here. Is it written? Because I'm reading this book about mysticism by Evelyn Underhill, which always comes at the top 5, top 10 books to read about mysticism.
Right.
But it's a bit of a tough read, because it's written about 100 years ago.
Okay.
And she's a poet, so it's really frilly,
verbose,
philosophical language, and it's not.
He who has the eyes to see in the morning of the dawn, as the star in the sky falls on the ground. Who am I to notice these things?
Obviously, I can read words together in sentences.
I don't know
it's just that.
It's the order they're in.
It's making a sentence 20 words long when 5 would have been perfectly good. That does my head. This is why I like Chuck Palahniuk is one of my favourite writers, because he does no description in his books at all. It's just what is happening and dialogue.
Car drives down the road, dude jumps out, sticks a gun in the man's face, shoots him in the head, reads like a
film script. It's great. You can let all your imagination do the other stuff. Whereas you read and I love Tolkien. Tolkien's amazing, but it's just the
exact opposite. It's exactly.
Gandalf lifted the sword of Elrond, which was carved by 27 nurses who had gout on the 4th of July under the 7th star of the sea. Shut up, will you? He lifted his sword.
And there's an interesting story about nurse number 6. Her father was once on the council.
All the orcs are bearing down, waiting to drink Gandalf's blood, and they're just hold on a second, and they're just we're in a union, you know that? We're in a union. We don't have to do this. Nonsense.
And now we will teach you the language of the 7th nurse's father.
So my question was: is it written like that? Is it written in 1880s English?
It's written first person. I went down the street. My mother was a nice person. My father was. It's very, very easy to read. And we're it's probably if you really want to know the story of Yogananda, you should read someone else writing a biography or autobiography.
But his other writings, are they also like his mail order stuff? Is that all? Has that all been put into books as teachings?
I don't know, but he has a lot of books. Like towards the second half of that documentary, where he just kind of, goes on a completely different level than everyone else, and he becomes very inward on himself, and he's, to say, if you need me, just whisper in my ear and I'll come out, or whatever it was, some mantra in his ear. But other than that, I'm somewhere else. But he wrote 10, 15 odd books in that period.
Okay.
Something like that. There are lots of them are inscribed. But scribed. I can't.
Yeah, it's not scribed. Shut up. You're scribed. It's scribed. The interesting lads. Yeah, it's a decent documentary. It could have been made a little bit better. Like those talking heads are fucking weird.
Yeah. But in fairness, the restoration stuff, the old footage, even it's a bit odd.
But that's very good.
It's done really well, and the way I loved in the recreations of it, they get an actor for his gurus. Yukteswarji, who just doesn't remotely look like the dude at all. No effort put into it whatsoever. And the guy to get to Yogananda doesn't really, he has the same hair. That's literally it. But the restoration stuff is really done well. And
there's stuff in it that is kind of. This is probably why I'd like to read the book, because it's a bit like the stuff he would say on stage and all like that. It's like, yeah, okay, man, because like he had this dream that he wanted to have this guru. He had this dream that he would meet the guru. For ages he looked around, and every face could have been him, and eventually one day he found him in a market, and your man said, yeah, I've been waiting for you for years. And then the Yogananda's like, and I knew him for years immediately. It's like, okay. And then there was other things, like he'd make his heart stop on stage, his pulse stop and stuff.
You can do that
with deep meditation and stuff as well. But like there's stuff for it with the.
Well, if you're not enjoying that kind of meeting his guru stuff, like the book is essentially.
I don't know. That's what I mean. No, what I mean is that I like that. I like the stories, but I think it's when there's films like this made, because they're to capture a general audience. Yeah. It doesn't always go into it enough. So I'd like to know a bit more about the woo side of it. Yeah. Really. So then I think I would like the books, because who doesn't want to have a dream about meeting their guru and then going to a fish market and being like, hello, granddad.
Yeah. So that's photo of him holding up.
Meeting old men at markets who are shirtless.
Who you've known for years.
Chiseled men with beautiful beards and chests. Yeah. Come, I will teach you. Yes, I will leave everything and follow you.
Go to America. Really?
No.
The photo is terribly sad at the end, where he's just holding his dead guru, and he's just like, oh man. So, it's like gone. And there's no life in your man at all. He's just like, obviously, because he's dead.
People did that here with cameras up to not too long ago. People would take photos at wakes and stuff. Iga was telling me, her grandma has like photo albums of wakes and stuff.
I'm like sitting grandma on a chair beside, like that type of stuff.
No, the coffin is there, and people's kind of standing around the coffin and. Nice. They just had these cameras and they're like, fuck, I don't know what to do with them.
Take pictures of dead people. Fine.
There's a great article, if I ever find it, I'll send it to you, about why I think the Polish service that do these things, they were the last service in the world to change from analog photos to digitals for doing dead body photos, stuff like that.
All right.
Crime scenes, and also like morgues and what do you call it? Autopsy stuff.
Right.
They were the last to change because the argument was, they can be digitally altered with, so we can't trust that.
That's fair enough.
Like, okay.
Fairness. Yeah.
Well, it's fair enough, but it's like, 25 years after Photoshop came out. It's a bit late, like.
Yeah.
Give it the program, lads.
Yeah, we can actually scan this photo as well and manipulate it and then make it,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The argument didn't stand up at all. Yeah. Bikram is in it. That's not a good thing.
Ramana Maharshi is in it briefly as well. He's standing beside him in one of the footage. Yeah, but fuck that dude.
Deepak is there with his bling glasses. He always has the same pair of glasses. I didn't know that. Does he just buy the same one all the time? Yeah, but like they're such snazzy bling glasses. You're like,
he's a multi-millionaire.
Yeah, but I couldn't wear glasses with diamonds in them. You know what I mean? I don't have the balls or the style.
Must source out that
documentary.
Could you? No, of course not.
But
I mean,
you gotta respect him at least for that.
Well, let's go back.
He's a man with diamonds in his glasses.
At the beginning,
that's kick-ass.
Had I had the life that Deepak Chopra had and the choices and the surroundings, then yes, I would be on TV with diamond-encrusted glasses.
Diamond-encrusted glasses. It's kick-ass, man. It's fucking kick-ass.
What's them try and source that documentary that his son makes about him? That's what's the thing that essentially put me off Deepak, in that I don't know, he's on a different planet, not in a good way. So much that the son had to make a documentary to hold up a mirror to him, and Deepak didn't notice. Just, that's okay.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy, you know. But I suppose there's a lot of them who are like that. They're so far up above, or they think they're so far up above the rest of us.
Yeah. I don't know. I look at Deepak and I don't...
People with no shadows.
Yeah, people with no shadows, yeah. I don't know. I look at Deepak and I don't see the thing that I see in Yogananda or certain or other people who are awake, whatever is the correct word, or have something. He doesn't, which could be means that he's awake.
Look, my theory on that is that, like, we'll always have our shadows because we are shadows of what's above us. You know, so like we can't. How can we lose our shadow if that's what's over us?
The reason why we're here,
you know? The whole reason why we're here is we're a shadow, so we can't, like, okay, maybe when you, like, literally the moment you die, that's when you lose your shadow.
Yeah.
You know,
even then,
who knows? Even then, yeah. So. Yeah,
it's a good documentary.
More theories are available.
Yeah, other theories on life are available
for
YouTube.
Postage correspondence. Yeah, fuck YouTube, man. We're going old school.
Yeah.
Posting
Send
letters.
$15 a month for possibly a letter every 6 months. Which one's good? Yeah. Just chill and meditate, man. That's it. Chill. Go on. Lesson 2. Seriously, just chill, man, and meditate.
Yeah. Be sound. So just ask yourself.
Be sound.
Just ask yourself the question when you have a choice. Like, okay, what's the soundest way of doing this? Simple. Be sound. What's sound? That's sound. Okay, sound.
There's a good questioning in the Peter Gray to Antichrist, which is it's because he's making a point of that reincarnation is such a huge part of the occult up until very recently, where we've just disowned it completely. But it was like Crowley says, you can't do anything until you know where you've come from. And so there's the 3 questions of who am I? Where have I come from? Where am I going? And that he says that really.
I'm in
I used to be Elvis Levy a long time ago. So it's that's the thing. Just while I remember that because it's easy to go. Who am I? Well, I'm Tommie Kelly. Where am I from? Well, Dundalk. Where am I going? Wherever the divine allows. But it's kind of the problem is that Crowley is really good, and so his technique of going to reincarnation is start thinking about 10 years ago, start thinking about 20 years ago, start thinking about when you were a kid, start thinking about it, the earliest memories, and just keep going. And you go, yeah, I can't do that, Alistair. I don't have that brain. But so but it's something.
It's active imagination, though.
It is, yeah.
That's all it is,
but there's plenty of techniques and stuff. But it's just the reason I'm bringing it up is because obviously Yogananda. Why do I keep saying Uganda? It sounds like a country that had some sort of civil war at one point. Oh, do you hear what's happening in Uganda? But because obviously there's a reincarnation element to all of that too, you know, and it's just something that I suppose, well, maybe it's just me, but it can't be, because I hear other people talking about it, that it kind of have disowned the reincarnation thing, being that it was so prevalent in all of particularly in that, like, the kind of circles we like to dabble in.
Yeah, I like the idea of it, but I haven't done too much investigating into it because, I'm alright.
You can't know who you are unless you know where you've come from.
Yeah, no, what I told you before about the ancestor thing that I was working on, and it seems to what kind of fits me the best is it's more the ancestor stuff of the things that you're studying, the lineage things. Fits more than
as in Millie.
As in like that's where my questions seem to be coming from, rather than there's some shadow from family trauma. You know what I mean? I don't know of any, and I don't think that my shadows necessarily come from that. They seem to come from learning. Philosophy, magic, yada.
Definitely the opposite of that. Which is interesting, you know. My shadows are definitely familial ancestral rather than lineage.
Look, I mean, I could be barking up completely the wrong tree. You know.
No, I mean, I
couple of years time. I don't know, like
no, even if you are, it's exactly right for where you are. So that's what you have to do. It's that thing. So yeah.
Because I was wrecking my head about this.
The ancestors turned up to me and go, well, what do you will you hold on? I'm trying to deal with the family stuff here. Come back to me in 3 years. Jesus Christ.
Well, I was doing my head in for
turning
ages.
up going, what is magic? Will you leave me alone to deal with me dad here?
I was doing my head in for ages going like I was looking for trouble. Looking for something bad that had happened or some trauma or some horrible events or... You know,
if you couldn't find it, then unfortunately, Spud, you're the trauma. You're the if you're looking for the dickhead in the room, you can't find him.
Yeah, been there, done that. Yeah, okay, hands up. Yeah, it's all right. Time to get me caught then. On that note then. Bye.
Bye.